All right. Welcome to the studio corner, Charlie.
Thank you.
Good to have you here. This is the first time. I'm excited.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm excited to talk about music stuff.
I'm excited to pick your brain finally. I was thinking about the podcast. I came up with the idea, and of course, all the research involved and whatnot. And I thought to myself, the best part about this is going to be the fact that I know so many different musicians, but now there's a platform for me to just pick your brains.
Mm-hmm.
And it got me thinking even more about being a musician and the two different lives we lived.
Mm-hmm.
I'm young. I'll be 25 in like 2 months.
Mm-hmm.
So I only have that much experience as a musician. But growing up, and even till now, you have your normal life with your family and your friends, and you have those relationships. And then you're a musician, and you have the musician world. And you meet musicians over time and different types of musicians and whatnot. But for me, it's been incredibly difficult to maintain like the close friendships that I have with like my close friends.
Mm-hmm.
Like none of them are actually musicians.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of sucks. Like it's hard because we're always going after something. We're always trying super hard to get somewhere. And I've had such a hard time, developing more intimate relationships. It's always like, what are you playing? What band are you in? Or what you working on? This and that, which is great as it should be.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a sense of community that kind of seems to be missing. And I got really excited because, this is why I'm doing it. I want to build a sense of community, and you guys are forced to tell me things because you're in front of a microphone now. So I went on multiple levels. But no, it got me thinking because, I was born in America and I grew up in America, and I had very supportive parents. I was exposed to a lot of music, and, I was, allowed to dream big. And, you've been my mentor, my teacher, my friend for how long? It's been like just years.
Well, I've known you since you were 10.
Yeah. So what? Almost 15
So
years.
it's 15 years.
And, you've had such a different experience. And you came over from Taiwan at 13?
Yeah, I was born in Taiwan and I came over 1997 and I was 13.
So you came, but all your family was in Taiwan.
Yeah, well, my family was in Taiwan, so my brother came with me, and then we stayed with my aunt and my cousin. They came here like 6 months earlier before we did, so they already have like apartment and stuff. So we came over and stayed with them, and my aunt took care of us for a while. Yeah.
So you came over and you started school pretty much.
Yeah, that was kind of interesting because I didn't speak English. It was like I knew how to say thank you and good morning, good night, and that's it. What I learned in Taiwan. It was, and the school was completely different formats. So that was quite an experience. But yeah, that's 1997.
So that's crazy to me, and because thinking about it, to be your age, 13 at the time, and to be starting school in America, not speaking the language. I mean, what did you have other than obviously your family that was here?
Yeah.
School work.
Yeah.
And music. You started music at around the same age.
My parents really thanked my parents because like when I was in third grade or fourth grade in Taiwan, they put me in like this children's choir, and it's outside of school. So growing up, I always had music. I would sing like English, singing German, singing different languages. I didn't know what they mean, and then trying to read notes. I didn't really get proper training because you were a kid. You just follow the line and follow other people singing.
Yeah.
And singing in the group. But it was a lot of fun, and I was exposed to so much different type of music. I mean, we even went on choir festivals in the Philippines and in the U.S. and then Europe, Eastern Europe. I mean, I was like 10.
Jesus.
And I was like, now I'm thinking back, like that's incredible.
So when did you start getting into guitar?
Yeah, so after I moved here, I remember watching TV MTV or something. This is the 90s. MTV
Nice.
was still cool.
Nice.
They have like concerts and stuff. You know, they have their show like Green Day concerts or well, like 182 or something. I think it's Green. It was Green Day, and I was like, and you know, you see them playing in front of all these people. And it's like, oh man, that would be kind of cool to do. You know, be like playing in front of all these people and so I was like, oh, I want to kind of learn guitar. And I already had like a little keyboard piano, like a Yamaha keyboard. I was messing around with the MIDI and stuff already. And I was using
The original MIDI.
I was using Cakewalk, which still exists today.
I haven't even heard of that. Let's put it
Cakewalk,
that way.
Yeah, and I was discovering MIDI. This is before guitar stuff, and then I was like, and then I saw the concert, and I was like, oh, I want to play guitar. And then I got an acoustic, like a Yamaha. No, it was a Fender. It was like a
Classic.
Fender DG10 or something like that. It was like one of those like $100, you know,
Yeah.
Fender acoustic. So I got it, and that's when I started. Didn't take lessons or anything. I was just playing around with it, trying to figure out the notes, the tuning, and how it matches with the keyboard. And I was like doing kind of trial and error, trying to figure out what the guitar is about. And
So
then,
this was when you were in America.
this is like when I was 7th. I started second half of 7th grade, so this is I think it's like 8th grade.
Okay.
Yeah, 8th grade. And then I have friends that already played, and these
So you met these friends at school. So
at school, yeah, they were like punk rockers. You know, they were like they listened to Misfits and the Dead Kennedys, or like all these like
nice.
very
I'm into
rebellious.
I'm
like,
into it. Yeah. Hell yeah.
yeah, anarchy stuff like.
Could use
Yeah.
a little bit more of that.
Yeah, so that's I mean, I grew up listening. I mean, here like listening to the Misfits, you know, old school punk.
So you were lucky enough to
Yeah,
have kids in school that were musicians
Yeah,
and were
you know,
interested in working with you.
It's funny, yeah, it's funny because like I guess the punks or like the rejects of the society or whatever, you
Yeah.
know, they're like more open to
It's funny how that
foreigners,
works.
like outside people that coming in. So because I mean, I'm in a little town in Southern California, like it's all white people here. Like,
Yeah.
I'm like the few, like in the school. I think it was me and my brother, and then maybe 2 other Asian kids. That's it.
Wow.
The whole school.
Wow.
Yeah. Now it's different though, but back
course.
then it was like we're like we're like the rare. You know, some people see that as like they're kind of off-putting, like, oh, don't want to talk to you. But some people I met a lot of good people that were like, oh, really interested in where I was from and like what I was about. And
So when you were younger, you didn't have the difficulty of separating that. I mean, your friends were the musicians, and that was the majority of it. I mean, you spend most of your time in a musical world, or when you guys hung out, did you work on music, or was it difficult to balance those things? Did you have friends outside of that?
No, I think this is the funny thing you asked, because like I think music brought my friends together. Like
I love that.
yeah, right.
Fuck yeah.
People say music bring people together, which it totally does, because it's a universal language.
I think that's incredible, because I mean, my experience was totally different. I being that age, at least, I knew one other person that was a guitar player, and we became really good friends.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah,
that.
you remember him. And but other than that, I mean, I never talked about music. I never hung out around music unless it was on my own time by myself or with the one friend that I had. And growing up, especially going through high school, that's when you're supposed to start your bands or mess around and fuck around with ideas and stuff. I never really did that. I did everything on my own. Mm-hmm. And I found both lives separating. And even today, like, I have my very close friends, but none of them are musicians. They come over and hang out at the studio, but it's not like I'm jamming with them. Mm-hmm. So for you, what you're saying is, coming here at that age, music brought your friend group together. Now,
yeah.
When you hit high school, did that stay? Was it like always musical friends?
Yeah, it stayed. I mean, I didn't purposely try to make it that way. You know? It's weird. It's just how it came about. I mean, high school, we had guitar class. There was a guitar class.
Nice.
I mean, it was like I already knew how to play, but
They wouldn't let me take the guitar class.
you
That's
were,
your
like,
fault.
Too good.
Well, you started teaching me too early, man. I signed up for advanced guitar, and
Like,
the principal
no.
pulled me aside and said, "Hi, we can't let you do this. We're not gonna give you that credit." I'm like, "Are you kidding me? There's kids in our class doing pottery work
it's too
because
easy for you."
ditching half the time, and I can't play guitar." Yeah. So I mean, lucky you, man.
Yeah, it's funny because like we had guitar class. I mean, it wasn't. I mean, I still learned stuff. I wasn't that good. I mean, it was by the end we were learning like we were learning Beatles stuff at the end, which was like bar chords and stuff. It was actually kind of hard for me because I
Bar
didn't know
chords are
bar
fucking
chords.
hard, man.
I
That
didn't know
shit
bar
hurts.
chords, you know. And yeah, I mean, then I met friends that were looking for bandmates, you know, guitar players. So then I joined my with two of my friends, still friends now, really good friends, and yeah, and that started a whole nother, you know, rock and roll band life, you know, like playing shows every weekend and packing up your gear, practicing in the
Oh
garage.
God, we all know that
And
struggle.
all that stuff, you know. It's like I think almost every musician go through that. You're either in like orchestra, you know, or choir, right? I actually did choir in high school too, but I didn't play an orchestral instrument, so because guitar, you don't do guitar in orchestras, so. So
Unless you're in Van Malmsteen, but
yeah,
you know.
yeah, right. So yeah, either you're in orchestra or in choir, or like you're on your own like garage band, you know, trying to make it big, you know.
Well, back then that's what it was all about. I feel like today, I mean, having a garage band is almost like no one cares.
It's your laptop.
Well, yeah, I mean, and see, but that's
your garage band.
You know, maybe that's what the difference was between, you know, our generations was, you know, when I grew up, you know, it was hard to find people interested in dedicating to a band. You know, band became a hobby, became, oh yeah, I can make it if it's possible, and then you meet musicians your age that obviously weren't good enough because, you know, that was their hobby and they didn't care so much about it. You know, there wasn't that scene that came with it.
Yeah,
you know,
we definitely had. There was like a huge scene of like
we want to rock.
Yeah, punk rock and playing shows and like. There were like there were local bands that we played together and like we became friends and oftentimes like one band will break up and then that bass player will come to play our band or like you'll switch band members because you know each other, you know, from playing shows. We'll open up for bigger bands like Yellow Card.
Oh wow!
We opened up for Unwritten Law. We opened up for
what was the
Henry
name
Rollins.
What was the name of your band?
Straightforward.
Is that the one with Doug?
Yeah. It was with
okay,
Doug,
right on.
And yeah, that was. I was like, what? I think we were together for like 5 years.
Shit.
5 years.
Good for you.
My life, he was dedicated to the band.
So in that time outside the band, was it just schoolwork?
Yeah, schoolwork and work, and I work at an instrument store. Instrumental music, Thousand Oaks.
Damn. So you were surrounded by music.
Yeah, I was.
I almost envy you. You know.
You know, it's that's how. I mean, it's like kind of. I didn't purposely do it. I think it was just I was attracted to it. You know, I was like.
It made sense.
I was like, oh, hey, I need a job. I need to make money. I mean, that wasn't my first job. You know, my first job was at a Mexican restaurant being a host.
Really?
Yeah, that sucked real bad. I mean, it was like talking about angry people that are hungry.
Oh God, hangry people.
So horrible. So definitely after that job, I'm like food industry. No, not me. And then so I was like, okay, I like music. I like guitars. Where are guitars? You go to the instrument store. You know, they weren't Guitar Center here. Guitar Center was only in like Hollywood back then.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so
it was like 4.
The only music store was like instrumental music, you know, Thousand Oaks, and then I went in there and then applied for it, you know, and then I worked there for like 3 years. 3 years of learning about gears and learning about guitars. Why is this one more expensive than the other one? And yeah, you
Why are they
know.
all expensive? You know,
Yeah.
why is
are
every
the-
single thing I want cost way more than I can afford?
Why
And,
is my paycheck go back into
yeah,
paying
it's a
for the
scheme.
gears?
They get you. Come
But
work
it
at our
was good.
store.
I learned a lot, man. I learned a lot. I mean, like, it was a part of my life that, like, if I didn't know something when the customer asked, like, I researched. I went online and, like, looked up all the information I could find, and that's how I know so much about gear and setting up stuff, and which in turn now really helps me to set out my own gear and
Yeah.
finding new stuff.
Well, especially, I mean, you're scoring stuff now, so like, I mean, that involves just that much more knowledge.
Yeah,
It's
if I
not
didn't-
just recording a guitar; it's recording entire orchestras and
Yeah,
know.
if I didn't have the knowledge I had working at the instrument store, like, I would probably struggle right now, like, trying to learn about gear and trying to learn how to compose, and, like, that would just be 10 times as hard, I think.
see that aspect. I mean, growing up and having you in my life, that aspect has always amazed me about you, is your ability to learn, or at least the craving and the want and the drive to constantly research and figure things out. And you know, I've been your student for a long time,
Yes.
and I know you've gone to music school, different types of music school. I mean, you've been a student of music, a music student your entire life, basically.
Still
And
a student.
always a student of music, and you know, there's so many bumps along the road of being a musician, especially in learning things. And I feel like anytime I ever had a struggle of understanding or learning, I would contact you in one way or another and get your advice. And I think that's such an important part of being a musician, is knowing and never forgetting that you are a student. No matter how big, no matter how
Yes.
famous, no matter rich, no matter how good you get, you're a student. And I mean, the insight on that is endless. I mean, not that you can sum it up in one sentence, but if you could sum up the best you could, what does it mean to you to be a student of music? What does that entail? What does that really, really represent?
A student of music. I think there's many different aspects of it. It's almost like it's a lifestyle. It's a constant knowing. There's always this notion of, for me, I mean, at least personally, like, there's always more to learn with music. I guess in life general, but music wise, like, yes, you master this one scale. Like, for example, guitar. Like, okay, you master pentatonic scale, but there's also other scales. Mixolydian. There's all these
Yeah.
other scales. And once you master that, wait, there's melodic minor. There's this other stuff. Wait, once you master that, wait, there is also Eastern music that has quarter tone scales and stuff. And you want to get into that, like. So it's like endless, depending, it's just which rabbit hole you want to jump into, and then once you jump into that one, you can jump into another one. It's kind of like, it's almost like your life companion. Like, you can always find something to learn about. So being a student of music, I think, is never being bored.
Never letting yourself get bored. maybe.
Yeah, you will never be bored.
because it's, especially in today's day and age, you can access everything.
Yeah.
You can learn everything, and you can take the time. But I mean, it's literally a matter of sitting down. Everything, having that ass power, sitting down and learning
into it, yeah.
But that's easier said than done. I mean, obviously not for you. You're like a mastermind.
No, you still gotta, like, it's a discipline thing. Like,
Well, yeah,
you
for-
really want to learn something, But
I'd say compared to me, you definitely have much more discipline in that aspect. But I mean, because you talk. I mean, how long have you been teaching guitar?
so I was definitely more than 15 years, because I've taught you.
Yeah. So you've been teaching
15
guitar
years
for
at least, yeah.
at least 15 years, and you've been going to school for music. So I mean, your perspective is as great as it's gonna get, you know, to teach that as many students as you do till this day,
Yeah.
while also going to school to learn, you know, the deepest and really intense. I mean, shit, composing and scoring, really intense parts of music.
Yeah.
And you know, what's do you find a difference in mentality when you're sitting down and learning something as opposed to sitting down and teaching someone?
Yeah, it's different. I mean, when you teach someone, you really have to formulate in a way that the student understands. So you have to break it down a lot. You know, something that might be easy to me, it won't be easy to somebody who's starting, and I have to like really rewind, you know, to go back to like when I was first learning it, and put myself in the student's shoes, and explain it that way, you know. But what was the question again?
Well, I'm just curious because, I mean, you have to teach students every day or however often you do, and
Yeah.
you know, different students are on different curriculums and different levels of guitar.
Right.
And so, you know, you could be starting with someone new and you're literally learning the most basic thing that you learned years ago. Meanwhile, later that day, you could be going to class, which is like composing 101 or, you know, some
Yeah.
crazy in-depth, you know, concept.
Yeah.
You know, that mind switch to be able to sit there and teach something simple to you or even
Yeah.
advanced, you know, to teach it to a student,
Yeah.
and then to switch your brain into, all right, I'm going to learn. I mean, does that learning brain turn on only when you're in class, or is that still a driving force when you're teaching someone? I mean,
Oh,
do you-
okay. Yeah. It's still, yeah. Every time I get a new student, it's a learning process. Why? Because I have to learn how the student learns. Everybody learns differently.
Do you think that's helped your ability as a guitar player, even in the simple concepts like reapplying things and understanding things more with the repetitiveness of having to teach simple concepts?
Maybe I never thought of it that way, but yeah, maybe it's related somehow. But with different students, you have to use different method, even though you're teaching the same material.
Yeah.
It's not like because
Yeah,
I do
yeah,
because I
it's
do
teaching.
one-on-one lessons, so I have that freedom to, you know, explore different methods of teaching, you know, the student. Obviously, classroom will be different, you know, but I think do I have to switch mindset when I learn? I mean, it's yeah. I don't know. When I teach, I'm still learning. I'm learning how to teach. You know, it's weird.
But I mean,
Yeah.
so it's basically you're constantly in that state of, you know, no matter how simple or complex it is, like that mind to be a musician, to constantly grow as a musician, no matter what you're doing, even if you're teaching a 4-year-old how to hold a guitar or in like a super intense class, like you have to have the same mindset.
Yeah.
And that seems to be the only way to grow or even succeed as a
Yeah.
musician.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's yeah, definitely. I think you're right because I'm constantly learning every day. You know, every week I teach lessons and learning something. And when I compose, I'm trying to explore, you know, new ways of doing stuff. Right now, I'm writing some trailer stuff, and it's like there's so much trailer music out there, and why does, you know, this track get used for this campaign and this movie and doesn't get used for this other movie? And it's a whole nother realm too. So I'm learning about that as well, and I'm writing a string quartet for my wedding, and it's like,
Oh man,
that's a whole nother.
that's fucking
that's
badass.
a whole nother
dude.
beast.
That is
you know?
badass though.
That's a whole nother beast, and I have to figure out like, ooh, okay, how, you know, writing it no problem, but like I gotta get the players to rehearse it and all that stuff. Like how, you know, I gotta figure that out. So that's another beast, and then writing music for this documentary, and you know the director's like, you know, this is third season, like we really want something a little different.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, you know,
Totally
after
new.
like 10 episodes of music, I mean, it's like how many hours of music I've written for the show, and now they want something a little different. So I was like, okay, now I gotta rediscover, I gotta learn what new things they want, you know. So I'm constantly like in that state of learning for sure.
Well, see, so that's a crazy concept to me. And I mean, I'm a musician myself. I'm a songwriter myself, and record as much as I can. You know, chasing that same dream or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
it's a crazy concept, especially in your line of work with trailers or composing and scoring. There's so much out there. There is. I mean, it's endless.
Yeah.
And to sit down and anybody that's been in a studio for any project knows what it takes. Knows how much little nuances count, and it's a lot of work for a possible nothing.
Yes.
A very high possibility of nothing.
Yes.
And in that process, you do have to stop and research. You do have to stop and learn something new. You have to figure out how to do this one thing that person needs, or how are you going to master your tracks? Who's going to master? Who's going to edit? All this stuff. And I feel like from personal experience and from just watching other musicians in all different walks of life, that's where it becomes difficult. That's where the motivation that you talked about, the discipline, being able to sit down and go learn that stuff.
Yes.
You just lose that motivation because it's like, well, so what? Okay, so if I have to learn this new thing to create a new piece of music, whatever it may be, for a library or a world full of music, what difference does that can make? Why would I spend my time learning something new and doing that? Why don't I just do this as a hobby and just enjoy it? Like where's that line between those two things? Where does it become, how, not even where, but how do you convince yourself that it's worth it? Like, how do you say it's worth my time to sit down and do this possible nothing, if that makes sense?
That totally makes sense. Right now, I'm struggling with that a little bit, but because like we're doing this trailer album, and you have to. I mean, like, a trailer album usually have like 12 to 20 tracks, maybe.
Jesus.
But we're doing this. I think this album's gonna be bigger, and it's the same concept. The brief for the album is the same for all the tracks you're gonna write. So you have to, like, every time I start a new one, it has to be kind of new concept, but it still stays within the whole album.
Yeah.
Brief, like
a
projects.
theme.
Yes. So that in itself is really challenging. But how do you like continue doing it? Because I might write something and then it doesn't fit the brief. Like, okay, now I gotta scratch and then start over, which totally happened. Like today, I was doing that today. Like whatever
man.
I worked on in the morning, when I listen after lunch, I listened to it. I'm like, this is different than the brief, so I can't. This is not gonna get passed. This is not gonna get approved. I gotta edit it. I gotta revise it. So I did, and by the end of today, like, I think I have something that might work. But then you don't know until you send it in to the library producer, and then he'll be like, change this and this and this, or this track doesn't fit. So how do you keep motivated? Well,
especially in that moment of like complete defeat.
Yeah, I think you have to just move on. It's just more like you can write like 100 songs, and maybe 10% of them will be good
if you're lucky.
And then also, each time here's what it is. Each time you work on something that doesn't get approved or doesn't go anywhere, this counts as a practice. Counts as a step towards a track that will work, that will go somewhere. It's back to the thing, learning process.
Yeah,
it's a learning process.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You probably experience it as a songwriter. It's like every time you write a song, the next song and the next song, like compared to like your first song you wrote to like the most recent song you wrote.
There's growth.
Yeah. There's growth. Where does that growth come from?
Trial and error. I mean, constantly doing it. Yeah, constantly doing it.
From writing it, from like constantly doing it. Exactly. So I think that's the secret of keeping motivated. If you're like, if you have in the mindset of like, okay, well, I'm doing this and this might not go anywhere, but the process of doing this is gonna accelerate me to the next level of writing or whatever you're doing.
See, that's a very practical approach, which I agree with completely. But I think where my mind, or where a lot of creative people in general struggle, is especially with music, a creative output like that, it's not just a physical energy. It's such a emotional and intimate, expression that, and you can only give so much before you're exhausted and you find yourself sitting in a corner, sad, or whatever, just down and giving up. And I feel like, as we can be tough and physically push through things, but sitting down and working on a project all for weeks at a time, only to find out that it's not good enough for whatever you're going for.
Yeah.
I mean, you just exhausted yourself emotionally, creatively, and and all those aspects outside of physical, spiritually even. You've given it your all, and that's the most vulnerable, intimate side of ourselves, which is required for what we do. And to get to that point, I mean, it's like there's no I can't just go sit down and eat some food and have a glass of water to rejuvenate that. Physically, if I'm tired, I can take a break and regain my energy. But emotionally and spiritually, like that, it's such an exhaustion. I mean, it's so hard to continue to think it's worth it and continue to keep pushing when you do go through those times. So in your experience, at least, what in a sense rejuvenates that aspect of life? Is it walking away? Is it pushing to the point where you're numb? Is it being emotionally more tough and getting over yourself? I mean, at what point do you realize that you have to look past the vulnerability and sensitive side of creating?
That's a very, I think what you're talking about is like kind of like reset. How do you reset so you can start again?
Exactly.
A lot of times I feel like I'm drained creatively, and I heard this from a famous composer, one of my favorite film composer, Alexandre Desplat. He's a great film composer. He said he takes naps.
That's it?
Between writing sessions, he will like get to a point and then he will just take naps and then go back to it. It's like,
you have to have
sense.
You have to have a certain level of confidence, though, to stop what you're doing, take a nap, and wake up and go back at it, though. I mean, because you have to be confident enough about what you're doing to know that no matter how vulnerable or down you get, it's worth getting up and going after again.
I don't know if confidence has to do with it. It's more just like, even if you're not confident of what you're doing, it's more of if you have the courage to try it.
I like that, courage.
Because if you're confident of what you're writing, then to get to a point of burning out, maybe not. You're not gonna get burned out because you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Is you only get creative drain is when you don't know what works, when you're not confident, when you're like, is this gonna work? Like, and what's going on here? When you start questioning yourself, and then you need to, then that's when I also tell myself, it's like, okay, I gotta step back and like get out of it, because sometimes you like focus too much into whatever you're writing, and then like you lose yourself in it too much, and then you need to reset, kind of come out of it as a third person view, like, okay, re-listen to it again, and like try to make sense out of it, and then go on to the next stage.
So it's almost like a compassionate approach, like accept that you're exhausted, accept that you're having a hard time, and if you can accept that you're only human, you're doing your best, you can walk away and come back. That makes a lot of sense. Wow, I like that.
It's like, no, I don't think there's a point to like beat yourself down, like, oh man, I suck, like,
I mean, it's what we do.
I do that.
I do it every day. Are you kidding?
Like, you can ask my fiance. She's like, yeah, no, you got it. She also is really supportive. Like, you got this. She always tells me. So, I mean, that's another good point, to have like another voice that supports you too. That's really being a big help for me too. But not everybody has that.
Well, it's scary. Even if you're surrounded by 100 people a day or no one, it's scary to let anyone into that side of you, especially as a musician. I mean, it's so, it's maybe not for everybody, but I feel like at some point a musician understands that whatever their craft may be, whether it's guitar, drums, or composing, or MIDI, or whatever it is, I mean, instead of them going and talking about their feelings, that's how they get it out so they can survive almost. I mean, we have to, as you know, it's inside of us. We have to. And to let someone into that it's scary. It's a very difficult thing.
You know, I think not being in the scoring side of things, that's what every media composer does. Is like you do the project, you know, spill your heart out on stuff, and first version usually you have to get revisions, and that's
Gotta get
right
roasted.
there. Yeah, and exactly, that's right there. You know, and then some producers are nice, some producers are right, and you know, right off the bat, like really blunt. So it's like it's definitely not for everyone. Like if you don't have the stomach for it, you know.
That's actually a really good point. I like that you said that, because I feel like people are undermining what it takes to pursue music in any sort of career or on a deeper level. It's not just this like happy-go-lucky express yourself art form. Like it's not for the people that can't handle it. And I don't give a shit. I'll fucking say it. Like, don't be a bitch. Like, be emotional, be sensitive, be vulnerable. That's how you dig deep and express that. But once it's expressed, you know, understand that the world of music, whether you're in the industry or sharing it with a friend, it's a brutal, brutal motherfucker.
Yeah.
It will rip you a new one. And people that, you know, think that it's going to be just happy and enjoyable, and there are those aspects, but if you don't have the stomach for it, like you said, you know, step away, because this is possibly the most ruthless thing that you'll experience.
Yeah, it is.
I mean,
You know,
talk about
it's
having
like,
your heart ripped out and shown to you.
Yeah, I mean, I think music industry, or you know, film music industry is one of the most brutal industry you can get into. And then, I mean, besides, like, I think any other creative industry is also like that, you know. Like,
Yeah.
it's like you put your work out, and it's like it's that feeling of like when you record something, you record a track or you produce a track, you play it back for somebody that never heard it before, and like that
They just don't give a shit.
That feeling of you get that like heart pumping feeling, like you get nervous.
Yeah.
Even though you're not performing, you're just pressing play.
But
you
there's
get this,
that
like,
adrenaline that, you know,
it's like you know, like you get
most important moment of your life
tight
for that.
chest,
Yeah.
like yeah, exactly. It feels like it's the most vulnerable. Then you get some feedback, and then it's like, okay, yeah. Sometimes you can't. Sometimes you're like not ready for it. You know, you have to prepare yourself, your mind for it. It's like, it's a lot of it's a lot more than just like putting down notes.
Well, see, that's
sure.
That's the crazy part. Like, you know, and I definitely think musicians need to understand is you experience all the great parts early on, and those will always stay with you throughout a career. But the more you dive deeper into a musical life, the more shit comes your way. And it's basically, you know, and I like it that way. I'm glad it's that way, because it really tests who can handle it. Because to basically to write anything or to express anything says that what you're feeling and what you believe in is worthy of expressing and sharing it, which, you know, is a good way to look at it. But if you're gonna be beaten down by every opinion, then it's not worthy. It's yours to keep to yourself. Go do something else.
Yeah, you can't. I mean, I guess like opinions is one thing. You can't let that get to your head. And then, I mean, besides like getting beat down, there is a huge. I mean, on the other side, there's a huge reward.
Oh yeah.
When something is working, you know, it's like, you know, I mean, I worked on a video game last year, and it's like I got to record, you know, live players and live orchestras, and
Oh man.
it's like hearing your music playing live by people, like by like 70 people playing your music.
That's incredible.
And then and then also the solo is like they compliment on your stuff, you know. It's like, you know, because you never know. It's like when you write, especially when you write for solo players, it's like, oh, is this gonna work? I mean, because I don't play this instrument, you know. Like,
Yeah, that's a wild
I think
concept.
this is gonna work. Yeah, okay. Hope it's gonna work, but I guess we'll figure out in the session, you know. But you gotta have like 90% of confidence that it's gonna work. So, but again, that's the learning process. So you like once you've done it once, and then it's like, oh, this instrument is playing like this. Okay, this note won't work. Okay, then you next time you know. But but for this time, I was like lucky that what I wrote, the players were, they were like, oh, this is really really good, really beautiful. I was like really playable and stuff. I'm like, oh, great, I know what I'm doing.
It's a very nice validation.
Yeah, it's
It's almost like all those stressful
When-
moments are worth it in that second.
when you're validated by a musician who's
Yeah.
pro enough to play like sight read stuff and like record it, it's like that's pretty.
That's a pretty great
That's
feeling.
a pretty good feeling.
That's
yeah.
awesome.
So those kind of stuff keeps me going, too. It's like,
Those victories.
yeah, those are those moments. Like, okay, yeah, I can do this, and it gives you confidence, and then it's like, okay, I can do this, and I want more. Like, I want to record an orchestra. Like this time recorded overseas, but it's like I'm watching a video. It's not it's a remote session, so it's not like I'm there. But it's almost like I'm there. You hear it back, so that's cool. But I mean, like, there's still I want to be able to record, like Abbey Roads or like or London Air Studio or like and go there to record. Now, that's like a dream, but it can happen, right? So those things keep me going.
So I mean, I guess it's also being open and really opening your eyes and appreciating those small victories because they could pass you by.
Oh, yeah.
You set your dreams so big, which is good. I mean, I think it's good to really set your dreams and goals really high and think big, but also be practical in the sense of like, all right, to get there, I have to have these small goals and these small dreams, and I find it so easy to look past those, like something as a simple validation. You could be in work mode and totally just skip that by and forget to appreciate all those awesome moments that reminded you like, hey, this is working. Hey, this is awesome.
Yeah.
It may not be the giant goal that I'm dreaming of, at least
Yeah.
right now, but it's so easy to forget that.
Yeah.
And I mean, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, shit, even for me, sitting down and record a guitar track, I'm thinking about, all right, the whole album, it's going to be awesome. We got to do the production and all this stuff. It's going to be this.
Mm-hmm.
But sitting down and record a guitar track, spending, 8 hours finding a fucking right spot for the mic, for the guitar to sound good, like, that's a victory. You find that good guitar sound, you should feel freaking great. I mean, I've had moments where I've spent so many hours and I finally get that perfect guitar sound. I have tape on the floor. I don't move a muscle and I play my guitar track right there. And that sound, I mean, no one else cares, but for me, that moment is like, all right, now I'm ready to move on to the next thing with everything I've got.
Yeah.
It's easy to miss those moments.
Yeah, you gotta have those like little victory to yourselves to keep you going, really. And then also like, I think if you're in music, if you're a musician or you're learning music, you're studying music, you want to be in the music industry, there is something to say about that where there's like this fire in you that connects you with the music part, and
Yeah.
it doesn't matter which aspect of it, even if you're in like music business, music industry people, like,
Why are you doing it?
yeah, it's like, why, I know I have college friends that are now music supervisors.
Wow.
Which is like they pick songs for shows, for big shows.
Damn.
And stuff. And you gotta love music to do that. It's like and that has challenge in itself. You gotta pick songs for shows. Like, how many songs are there? It's like
I've always thought about that. I'm like, these people have to have such a wide knowledge of
Yeah.
what's out there
Yeah.
to look at a scene or anything with no music whatsoever. To
Yeah.
look at it and to imagine the emotion that will be brought by a random song and the infinite number of songs.
yeah, and different number of songs, infinite number of lyrics. And
Yeah, I mean that's incredible.
Lyrics
You
is
really have to be
huge.
passionate about
Yeah,
that.
and music supervisor. Yeah, I gotta have lunch with them or like talk about that because it's like that's crazy. It's a whole different art,
That's
and then-
wild to me.
Yeah, and then there's like I have a friend who's A&R in like a music label, and that's finding new artists, try to get them, promote them and stuff, and then that has something that's also another whole
That's a
art,
Well, it's funny is like all these different aspects of the music industry, whatever part of it you're in, like, whether you're the musician, the writer, the creative type, or you're not, or you're on the outside, but still in the industry, like because it is so ruthless, and this is what I love about it, and especially today without record sales, like all the things that made money are kind of gone. So like if you're gonna step into it, if you're really gonna step into the industry, like you have to be fucking ruthless and passionate. Like, you know it's going to be tough. You know it's going to be crazy. But to go out and promote someone, for example, you have to care. You can't not care because people see that. I mean, we know. I mean, we're exposed to everything now with social media and with the internet. So the benefit is that we know when someone's bullshitting. We know when it's fake. We can feel that for the most part, especially with the creative aspect. We know when someone's just trying to fluff up something. So even a promoter, like, you can't just go out there and be like, oh, this band is great, check them out. Like, you have to give a shit. Like, you have to wake up and say, I'm going to go promote this band because this.
Yeah.
Because this, you know?
I think the technology really made everything more apparent, you know? You can't really, like, I mean, I guess.
Can't hide.
Yeah, I guess you could. But
if you just didn't do anything.
But you can get exposed real easily, you know?
Well, I mean, there's also the concept of being oversaturated, but in my opinion, like, as much as it's oversaturated, I think because of that, you have to be the absolute best to succeed in whatever it is you're doing. Because to stand out, you have to be not only different, but you have to be the best. People can't half-ass their way to the top anymore unless they have other people doing their best for them, which is rare enough as it is. So, I mean, musicians of every caliber, all over the place, all over different parts of the industry, like, if you're going to stand out, you better be the freaking best. And not only that, you can't just be the artist anymore. You have to be your manager, your marketing expert.
You have to be, yeah.
I mean, that's a blessing for musicians because now it's
freedom.
weeding out the weak. It's weeding out the people that don't have the stomach for it.
Yeah.
As it should. I mean, I don't know what it's like to go on tour, but I mean, watch any interview with a big rock star, someone that's been on tour, and they talk about how ruthless it is. Like, they figure it out, 30, 40 years into the industry, but, like, it's not an easy job. If you have a weak stomach, you can't do that.
Yeah.
See, that concept almost is applied to every part of the industry now. If you can't deal, you're out.
That's true, yeah, because right now if you, like, release a song and then you immediately get feedback.
Yeah, there's no downtime.
Yeah, even if you, I mean, not just music industry, even like any creative stuff, even like video games. I watched the
that's even more ruthless.
Like indie games, like release a game and like people talk about the game and stuff. It's like you can read comments all day and like get yourself go crazy just reading the comments, So I guess
and that's almost like a therapeutic suggestion now. Like, don't read comments on anything. Like, even if it doesn't involve you, it's just negative.
Yeah.
Like, that's how bad it is.
Yeah. So anyhow, I mean, yeah.
That's amazing. That's a lot of ups and downs, a lot of goods and bads. But I'm pretty stoked for what comes with all the quote unquote oversaturation.
Yeah.
Because only a little bit will come out of it. But back to being a student of music, which I like that concept, especially in this realm of things, because especially now you have to be it's not even a student of music anymore. Like, you have to learn all the things, all the social media, all the marketing, all the managing, all the contracts, all the, what to write, what not to write, what you can and can't say. There's so much to learn. While being vulnerable and sensitive and writing from your heart and believing what you're doing. Like, it's incredible. It's really a feat. To see anyone succeeding, whether I like their music or not, whether I like what they're doing or not, to see anyone succeeding and still be passionate, that's a feat. That's a feat in itself for me.
You have to respect that.
That's, I mean, just mad fucking respect.
Yeah.
But, so growing up learning guitar, mostly with you pretty much. I mean, I've been playing for almost 20 years. About 15 years was with you. I can comfortably say I developed a lot of bad habits.
Like what?
Well, just a lot of bad habits of not practicing and not practicing what I was supposed to and this and that. But, I mean, that's just in the world of learning guitar. But, even going to school like you were doing, or even learning marketing and social media, all that is a learning process outside of music itself. It's just learning process.
Yes.
You're a teacher. You've been a student. If I could pick your brain and, you gave me like 3 pinnacle things, like what's that, like habits basically. What are 3 of the best things you could tell a student that's beginning that could apply to someone that's been doing it for 20 years like me?
I would say, 3 things, huh? So, I mean, You can.
It doesn't have to be three things,
Yeah,
but
I'm trying to think. Like you can.
main concepts maybe.
Yeah, I mean, just be disciplined. You know, you have to. You know, you have to do the work. You know, it's like, yes, you like okay, you can see where your dream is, but it doesn't happen until you work at it. You know, so and then to work at it, you have to have the discipline to sit down and do it, and spend time on it. So that's like one thing is just just do it.
Time management,
Don't
basically.
make excuses.
Well, it's crazy because there's really is no shortcut to that. Like
No,
it's
there's
not
no.
like, oh, I can shorten the time. Like I have to sit down and spend that 2 hours running that freaking scale with a goddamn metronome.
You gotta learn to love the metronome, man.
Oh man,
You
that's
know?
that's a love affair right there.
I know my students don't like it, but
Haunts
they
me.
learn to. I teach them to love it.
It still haunts me.
I teach them to love it. You know, it haunts you, yeah, but you know it works. You know, it works.
That's actually how I prepare to if I'm gonna record like a guitar track. The day before, I'll sit down and run scales with a metronome.
Yeah, because you get stuck in your head. You know. Yeah, one of my friend drummer, he listens to the metronome to sleep.
Really?
He told me, yeah.
That might work actually. That's pretty
Like,
consistent.
that's
I like that.
Insane. I can't do that.
I'm gonna try that actually.
That'll
Because the consistent pattern is beep 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 until you pass out.
Yeah, but then it's still going while you're sleeping.
You know, maybe
So what
serial
his
killers,
concept-
whatever. You know.
His concept is yes, it's gonna keep going while you're sleeping. So you're learning that particular BPM. Whatever.
Oh my god,
Yeah.
that's horrifying.
I know.
I'm having nightmares while awake right now thinking about that.
So yeah, that's not one of the tips.
Honestly, you know what? Screw it. Rule number 1: metronome. That's it. I don't care what level you're at.
Yes.
Metronome is life.
Metronome and timing.
Everything after that we could talk about.
That's true. I mean, yeah. Yeah. Then now we're talking about that is yeah, definitely time. Yeah, if you're a musician, it doesn't matter what music you're doing. I mean, if your music business may be different, but yeah, timing. You gotta have that internal clock. If you don't have that, like, you can't tell what's on time or not. You know.
Do you think it can be trained, or does it have to be start?
yeah,
with, or
it can
does
be trained.
It has to start with a natural ability of rhythm.
Natural ability helps because you learn it faster,
Okay.
but it can be trained, for sure. People know me. I have students that had like absolutely no rhythm. It took a long time to train them,
Yeah.
but you can see the improvement. You know, they're not like dead on yet, but you see improvement. You know, so it just takes time to train. Just I still believe that, like, and also so that's one, and then second is learn your ear training, musicianship. You know your interval jumps and know your chords and know your progressions, because that's like the building blocks of things. Because that I always think music is a language, and
Absolutely.
to learn the language, you got to know how to listen to the language. You know,
Yeah.
it's like how the intervals are your alphabets. You know, the chords are your like words. You know, chord progressions are your sentences, kind of thing. You know.
That's badass. I love that.
Yeah. So
I fucking love that.
So you gotta know those. That's why they train you in school for that, because like, and it definitely helped me a lot singing as a child in choirs, hear harmonies and stuff. You know.
That helps a lot in
And
producing too.
melodies, and melodies. Oh yeah, and everything, music.
I mean, that's just that might be the like most important part of producing, being able to hear those intervals, being able to hear the harmonies, and be able to hear what it's missing.
Yeah.
You know, being able to sing it in your head when it doesn't
I mean,
exist.
yeah. I mean, I was producing a track one time, and then like the producer was there, and then there's another producer that was there. Well, one of the producers was like just paying, for the session, and it's his song, but he has no music background. The other guy is like a friend of the main guy that's paying for the session, and I guess he has music background, whatever. So they were asking, oh, would you change the harmony at this one part, or add a harmony to this? So like immediately I have to be able to clunk that out and hear it and tell the singer what it is, because the singer didn't have that training.
So like at that level of work in the industry,
You have
or
to-
it's just, I mean,
you have
that's,
to be able to do it.
it's
right
not
away.
even a question of like, can you or can't, or like, have you learned it? It's just, it's like
just
taking
have
one
to
foot
do
in
it.
front of the other, like
Yeah.
taking a step.
So the funny thing is, like,
That's
once-
required.
Yeah, we were like, me and that other guy was kind of talking about which note should be done, right?
It's amazing.
It was kind of almost an argument, and then I was like, well, we need like a keyboard to clunk this out real quick.
Yeah.
And luckily there was a keyboard there, so I was just playing. It's like, okay, we'll do this and this and this, and then right after I did that and explained what it is, the other guy like didn't say anything anymore, because I think he realized that he didn't have enough, ear training knowledge to like
See,
do
that's,
the part that he was, the other guy was saying.
I
So-
feel like that's something that's lost though. I mean, I did, when I was, I think, 16, 17, I went down to Universal Records, and I remember, I don't know if you remember, I was going down at like 8 o'clock at night, working till 4 in the morning with like some of the songwriters they had down there. It was like friend of a friend, met a gig, It wasn't even paid. It was like a quote unquote opportunity. But I was working with them. We were writing a lot of songs at the time, and I think it was like every night we wrote a song, but a lot of those things, I mean, obviously my ear isn't as good as yours, but I have the guitar and I understand the concepts of like, harmonies and thirds and fifths and all that stuff. And that was something that the guy I was writing with, he was a singer of all things. The guy I was writing with, he didn't really grasp that. Sure enough, the engineer knew exactly what I was talking about. And that was such a great example of, it's very lost, because this guy is paid by Universal Records to write songs for small stars, big stars, whatever they are. And he has doesn't grasp the concept of harmonies, let alone be able to do them. Meanwhile, the engineer who's just sitting behind a board eating Chinese food is, understands completely what I'm saying. And I feel like it's such a lost art form, but with that skill, like you said, in that moment, the guy stopped talking. In that situation, technically you were the work for hire. They were the big shots, they're the producers. But in that moment, that simple knowledge, which really should be basic knowledge, is just wins. I mean, that's you have to have that. That sense of ear training and harmony. I mean, that's incredible. It's so lost.
Going back to like the music's a language, it's like that's how you communicate. A lot of people think that. I mean, I used to think like, oh, you should take lessons, or you like learn too much about music, you're gonna lose your inspiration. Like,
Nah, fuck that.
lose that. Like that's what I used to think. And once I took lessons and went to school and learned all this stuff, and then you learn all these like rules about music, and
It's
then
freedom.
Then you know like what works, and then you're free to explore beyond that.
Well, see, it's funny you say that, because growing up, I started guitar when I was 5 years old. Started with you not too far after that, and you were very intense with teaching me things, and I absorbed as much as I could. But I learned a lot of stuff that kids my age weren't learning at the time. They were learning cover songs. Till this day, I don't think I've ever learned a full. I couldn't play you a cover song. I've been playing guitar for 20 fucking years, and I could not play you a cover song, at least all the way through right now. Not gonna happen. You couldn't do it. But I mean, we learned so many of the scales and all the theory and all that stuff, and I would from time to time jam with other guitar players my age or even older than me, and I found myself bored because they were playing cover song after cover song after cover song. And I remember I think he was like my sister's boyfriend or at the time, or someone. I think it was my sister's boyfriend at the time. We had met for the first time, and he was a guitar player, and we sat in the library of the house and we played, and he just kept playing these folk songs, and he sounded like shit, but I was like, let's jam, and it just wasn't possible. And he made a comment about, I don't like to take lessons. I never did, because I don't want to like take away from like my inspiration or my like creative process. And I realized in that moment, I was like, that doesn't make any sense. I was like, it really opens up the gates to complete freedom. I mean, it's like anything else. It's not, I mean, yeah, in the beginning, you're learning scales. You have to think about the scales. You have to think about, 1, 2, 3, all the way to 7. Are you major? Are you minor? What key are you in? You have to think about all that shit.
Stuff,
and it's overwhelming. But, you keep practicing, all of a sudden it becomes just natural knowledge, like speaking a language. Exactly like speaking a language. Then I just use words to express how I'm feeling. The more words I know, the more I can freely express how I feel.
Yeah.
And I realized then, I was like, man, people that think, not taking lessons is good for their, just their skills. I mean, that doesn't make any sense to have complete fucking freedom. Imagine if you could wake up tomorrow and you knew everything there ever was to know on the guitar. You would never stop playing.
Yeah.
If you could speak 15 different languages,
Exactly.
you would never stop speaking to people.
Travel the world.
I mean, it's complete freedom. It's like that sacrifice to sit down until your fingers bleed, which it has. My fingers have bled multiple times. It pisses me off.
That never happened to me though.
Well, I started when I was 5. I didn't have very thick fingers. All right, they were little baby fingers. But I mean, it's complete freedom. Like to have someone come over and just someone you've never met, plug in and just start jamming and just go off, improvise. I mean, that right there is the ultimate skill. If you can't sit down and jam with someone, at some level, if you can't jam and just be free like that, then you have to sit back and reevaluate what you're doing. I stand by that 100%. And that I mean, think about it. All the lessons we had, you would teach me a scale or whatever you taught me, and what do we do right after we learned it? Jam on it.
Play. We use it.
Yeah, he's like, here's the natural minor hike. I'm gonna play an A minor progression. Use the scale, and boom, there you go. Now I can jam.
Yeah.
I mean, shit, that's amazing. Very passionate subject for me. So what do we have? We have a timing.
Well, timing
and ear.
Your ear hearing, and then
Those are like fucking pillars right there.
be humble. Once you know your stuff, you gotta know there's more to learn always. So you basically watch your ego. Like it's hard that's one thing I haven't really learned how to teach is how do you teach young kids about ego? Like that's such a adult concept. Or I mean, teenager might be able to understand it, but maybe not.
Maybe too many hormones.
Exactly, like they're not gonna listen to you. They already have too much ego, or they don't even know they have it. It's a dangerous thing because I've had students that were like getting really good, but they become like it's kind of like you join the dark side, like they become like, oh yeah, I know everything, kind of thing. Like, but they don't, It's like and. It's weird. I haven't like figured that out yet, but
see, that's where I consider myself just so fucking lucky because we became friends as I got older, and having you in my life has been a constant reminder of Hyde, calm down. You don't know that much. You're not that good. Like, I mean, there's also the opposite side. Don't beat yourself up. Appreciate what you can do and respect yourself and say, hey, I'm good.
Yeah.
But
don't beat yourself. Yeah.
I mean, now I never pick up a guitar and say, you know what, fucking watch this. I'm the best at this. I never do that anymore. Because you know how many times I've, especially as a teenager, I picked it up and just had my shit thrown back at me.
I was like, I think maybe it has to do with also, how you're brought up. Like maybe there's something there. But, I mean, I have a student that, he's 10, and like it's only like his early lessons and he's getting better. He can play some stuff now.
Yeah.
But you can see that like that fire is lit. Or like, yes, I want to learn more stuff. And also, I got this.
Yeah.
It's kind of,
which is almost good on a certain level at that age because it's like they're young and like, okay, they're believing themselves, they're confident. Yes. But it's like, will that transfer over more until as you get older?
Yeah, like when do you tame that and let down?
Well, you know what solves that? Go to a jazz club. Go sit down. Go to a jazz club. Bring your shit. Bring your guitar. Bring whatever. You bring your drumsticks. Sit down and try to play with that, dude. I cannot figure that shit out still. I can play all your jazz chords. I can write a beautiful song with all the jazz chords, but you put me on a stage with those fucking jazz cats that say, hey, this key, here's 18 fucking chords you've never heard of. I'll cry myself to sleep that night. I'll never pick up a guitar again.
That's the jazz is a life learning.
Man.
It never ends.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, it's that's another thing, exposure. If I were to add on to the things about always, being a student of music is exposure. Don't ever hide yourself away from what's out there.
To new things, yeah.
Constant, social media is great for that. You know how many times I've written a song or played a great riff or had a jam session, I'm like, fuck yeah, that was awesome. I killed that solo or I killed that song. open up my Instagram and there's a fucking 12-year-old Chinese girl playing everything I did times 100.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, all right, well, fuck this. I'm done. You know, like, that's, at first it beat me up. It really, like, I was like,
Yeah.
man, like, who am I? I'm not going to be important. I'm never going to make it. And then as time went on, you know, it's about standing by your craft and standing by what you believe in. It's important. But it's just so crucial to be exposed. You know, lucky enough, we live in, you know, what, an hour from LA, not even. I go to the Baked Potato all the time. That place has the greatest players in the world.
Yeah.
I go there all the time. And every time I leave that place and I'm like, I just think to myself, yes, I'm so happy I went there because those guys could run circles around me as a musician.
Oh, yeah.
But they can never do what I do when I pick up a guitar because it's what I do.
It's different, yeah.
Every single person that picks up an instrument that, you know, is creative needs to respect that what they do is theirs, but at the same time, don't ever think it's the greatest thing in the world. Let the world decide that, you know.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's just exposure. Go see shows. Go watch different genres of shows. Listen to everything, you know. And even the 10-year-old, like you said, 10-year-old learning a new scale. That 10-year-old learning a new scale could say something that could be just as important as the 80-year-old that's been playing jazz riffs his entire fucking life, you know? That it's so important to stay open and never just push us, you know, kind of put aside someone because they're not as good as you.
Yeah, I agree.
That's such a dangerous thing to do.
Yeah.
You know, what's that famous saying? I'd rather be a slave among kings than a king among slaves. A little dramatic, but you get the gist of it.
But yeah, you remember I gave you that book, Zen Guitar.
Oh, I love that book.
Talks about ego in there.
Yeah.
And creativity and stuff. That book is great.
I love that book.
Definitely highly recommend.
Zen Guitar.
I want to reread it actually. It's that book kind of opened my mind on a lot of things. I remember reading it after I finished Musician Institute.
M.I. The famous M.I.
Couple months after that, and it was actually recommended by one of the teachers. I forgot who, but that's why I picked up the book. Yeah,
Well, my teacher gave it to me.
Yeah,
I think you actually gave me the book.
I gave you the book.
I have your book. It's in that bookshelf right there.
Yeah, I wrote stuff on there, I think.
I'll have to look through it again. I haven't read it in a while.
Yeah. Anyhow, so yeah, that's the 3 things I think.
I love that. So what do we got? We got timing, ear, and staying humble. Damn, I'm gonna like write those in big letters and just paste them on my wall in here. There's like, see, I got my poster of Jimmy Page, Jimi Hendrix, and Metallica thing, and then right next to that is gonna be Charlie's 3 Rules. You know, I mean, I'm speaking of ego. I don't want to, you know, make your ego too big or anything like that. But I mean, for me, growing up, whatever project I embarked on, whatever new thing I was trying to learn, I always think to myself, how would Charlie handle this? What would Charlie do? And I contact you most of the time and ask you, but you know, I think to myself all the time because, you know, there's a discipline factor and just a humble truth behind it all. It is like this. There's a compassion. It's not about making things big and extravagant and ripping things apart or making a bunch of noise, but there's a method to this deep, intense passion that if you can hone it in the way you have, you can really make a difference. Yeah. Whether it's in your life, one person's life, or the entire world. Yeah. Like, it's literally endless. It's untouchable. Yeah. You know, music is one of those untouchable things. It's a physical vibration we can't figure out. I mean, it's you've definitely been a huge impact of it, and I'm more than happy and more than grateful to have had you to be the first one on this podcast. Yeah, and I'm sure anybody listening is learning a fuck ton.
I hope so.
Not everyone's as lucky as me. They didn't get to have you for this long, you know, learning a ton. And shit, I mean, you better come back on here.
This is really fun.
I got more things to talk to you
about. Yeah, definitely. I mean, this is definitely more things. It's endless topics we can talk about with music, man.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, so definitely come back.
Well, thank you again, Charlie.
You're welcome.
This was the Studio Corner with Charlie Lid, the man himself.
Gotta be humble.
Gotta be humble. This is the Humble Studio Corner.
There we go. Humble.
Should we change the name? Should we call it that now? Anyway, thanks, man. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Peace.